welcome to another Health and Horsepower. I am really excited because today I want to talk a little bit more about thyroid issues. I have a lot of patients that have come into my office that have thyroid symptoms going on, but after getting blood work from their doctor, they've been told that those labs are normal. But here's the thing, when I look at their labs, the only labs that are drawn by their doctor were either TSH and free T4 or just TSH. So let me tell you, if you are only getting minimal thyroid labs done and you've got symptoms of thyroid issues, we need to figure out what's going on, because that means we possibly have a thyroid issue going on that's being missed. So I want to talk about some things that your doctor may have missed and why when they're not doing full lab panels on your thyroid function. So a lot of times when it comes down to it, if you have other health conditions going on, if you have high inflammation levels in your body, if you have autoimmune conditions or chronic health issues, if you're dealing with a lot of stress, if you have a poor diet, you're not exercising or you're over exercising or you're not getting enough sleep, those are all things that can contribute to having hormone imbalance that can lead to thyroid dysfunction. So really when it comes down to it, when we look at thyroid labs, there's a couple different things we want to look at. So the first thing we want to look at is TSH, that's thyroid stimulating hormone. That is actually a pituitary hormone that tells your thyroid gland to make thyroid hormones. It doesn't mean your thyroid gland is working or not. All it tells you is there's a signal telling your thyroid gland to make hormones. The other thing we want to look at is our free T3. That's going to be the amount of unbound, bioavailable, ready to get out there and do work and do what it's supposed to do thyroid hormone. Free T3 is going to be basically what I like to call the bench warmer. So free T4 actually converts into free T3 to get out there and do your thyroid work. So T4 only tells you if there's something being made by the thyroid gland. It doesn't actually tell you what's out there doing work. So when we only look at TSH, we know the pituitary is sending signals to the thyroid gland. When we only look at free T4, we only know that there's T4 being produced and not bound, that it can actually be converted to free T3. We don't actually know if we have proper levels. Another thing to think of is if you have enough free T4 that's out there floating around, ready to be converted into T3, that T4 can actually be converted into what's called reverse T3, which is kind of like a blocker. It literally will bind to the receptors in your body and block availability for T3, that free T3 that's supposed to be there bioavailable doing work, to actually get in there and do its job. So sometimes what happens is your thyroid makes T4, and then instead of turning it into free T3, which can go out there and do work and actually manage hormones and function, it actually turns into reverse T3, which is like a blocker that allows T3 or does not allow T3 to bind and do what it's supposed to do. So sometimes when we are under chronic stress or some of those other health issues I mentioned, I will see where reverse T3 levels are very high, and that means that T4 is not going to free T3, it's actually going to reverse T4 because of that stress on the body. And that means your T3, even if you have enough, cannot do its job. So when we need to look at thyroid hormones, we really need a big picture about, number one, is the thyroid gland getting stimulated? Then, is the thyroid gland making T3 and T4? And is that T4 turning into T3, or is it turning into the blocker, reverse T3? That tells us if the thyroid gland is actually making and moving those hormones around how they're supposed to be with conversion ratios. Another thing that I think is really missed, I would say 95% of the time when thyroid labs are done, if those are done, so if you have your free T3, free T4, and your reverse T3, we have a lot of insight as to what's going on in the thyroid gland, but in some cases, we may also need to look at thyroglobulin and thyroid peroxidase antibodies. You have two types of antibodies that can be produced that start to either attack the thyroid hormones and the thyroid cells, or they can actually attack the thyroid itself. So we can actually see damage to the thyroid gland, and we can see damage where our thyroid hormones are being broken down by antibodies, and then our thyroid gland can't work. And a lot of times we will see what's called thyroiditis, where basically you have inflammation of your thyroid gland because it's working, it's making these hormones, or we have damage to the gland and it's trying to work with what cells are still available, and it has to overwork and overproduce, and it gets stressed and inflamed because of an autoimmune condition going on. So in many cases, when I see lab work, especially annual labs, and they're like, oh yeah, my doctor checked my thyroid, it was fine. I look, I'm like, well, your TSH is the only thing they ran, or they only ran TSH and free T4, not the other one. So we don't actually know if the thyroid gland's making hormones. We don't know if they're converting properly. We don't know if there's an autoimmune condition going on. There's a lot of different things that could be happening that we don't have answers on because we're not running full labs. So if you're having symptoms of thyroid dysfunction, which I'm going to go through those today so you know what they are, we may need to get further full panel thyroid labs done. If your doctor is not willing to do those, guess what? I order those in my office, and you can even go online to our website, freedompeoria.org. We have in our services tab and on the front page of our website a place where you can order labs. So you can actually order those. That kit will ship directly to you. You can go get those drawn anywhere, and then I'll actually sit down with you and go over those results, what they mean, what you can do with diet, nutrition, and exercise, as well as some herbal supplements and botanicals that can help to get your gland functioning again. And if we do have an autoimmune condition, we'll even go so far as to go over what dietary changes we need to do to try to manage and get that inflammation level down and under control. So if you are having symptoms of hypothyroidism or not enough thyroid function, we are going to see symptoms of fatigue. We can see issues with basically dry or very thin and brittle hair. We can also see issues with cold intolerance, where when you are out in the cold, you really are having a lot of pain in your extremities, like your fingers and your toes. We can also see issues with weight gain. We can see issues with joint pain and muscle spasms, and also depression when we have a hypothyroid or not enough or low thyroid function. If we have hyperthyroid or basically high thyroid function, we can also have fatigue. We also can see issues with hair loss going on. We can see issues with heat intolerance. So when it's hot outside, you notice that your body's really struggling to function. You can even have issues with tremors as well. Can be a thyroid issue, not necessarily Parkinson's or anything like that. We can also see decreased issues with concentration. We can see anxiety issues. And we can also see like swelling in our throat or goiter, which is basically when the thyroid gland is enlarged. And a lot of times as that thyroid gland overworks, we can see where as that inflammation level grows, we can also see swelling with that. And that's typically more associated with hyper or high thyroid function. So if you are having any of the symptoms that I mentioned and you have not had your thyroid tested fully, not just TSH, not just free T4, but fully, we may need to actually get labs to get answers for you to figure out what is going on and what you need to do to get back on track with your health, to get better and not just wait and see if it gets worse over time and eventually turns into a thyroid issue. A lot of times when it comes to thyroid issues, they can take months to years to develop. So you may have signals and symptoms going on now that are telling you something's not working right, but you won't know what's actually going on until you get full thyroid lab testing done. So if you need to get that testing done, you can either go on our website, freedompeoria.org, and order the labs yourself. They ship directly to you once you put your shipping information in. Or you can also set up a consultation with me. There's an appointment request section on our website that you can actually request an appointment. Or you can call our office and we can get you set up to sit down one-on-one to figure out, where do we need to start? Do we actually need to look at thyroid hormones? Or potentially, do we have an adrenal issue that's causing thyroid not to work properly? So a lot of times it comes down to looking at those systems and how they interact. I know in my office, I usually will go over dietary habits. I'll go over sleep habits. I'll go over exercise habits and kind of other health issues you may have that could maybe make us start focusing on a different system, not just thyroid function. Because in some cases, I do have some patients that actually have an adrenal issue going on or adrenal damage that's actually shutting down thyroid function. It's not actually a thyroid issue. It actually may be an adrenal problem causing that too. So many different things I hope you learned today, but definitely make sure that you are advocating for your own health. So if you've had some thyroid symptoms going on, your labs look normal, but you're still having issues, it's time to get real answers. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next week, Wellness Wednesday on Health and Horsepower. Have a great day.